Thank you all for being here. It's me, Ori Dawson Sheet. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. Hit the like button, share this live stream, donate the links below. Thank you very much. And above all, pay close attention to this live stream. Take notes about it and pray about it afterwards. And where this knowledge applies in life, apply this knowledge to glorify Heavenly Father. Thank you. All right. In this live stream, I'm going to use a parable to explain and illustrate to you why sometimes the controversy is you. Sometimes the controversy or the scandal is you. Not that you in yourself are a scandal or a controversy, but you become the controversy or the scandal. So, okay, let's start with the parable. You have a guy called Rick. Rick, let's think of Rick Smith, okay? Rick Smith is a police officer at the New York Police Department, NYPD. And part of his daily jobs is that he assists the detectives to investigate crime scenes. So one day on a Tuesday afternoon, he has to go. Hold on. He has to go with Detective Brown to a crime scene. A young woman, she was 19, was murdered in cold blood. And he was at the crime scene. He saw the body. He assisted forensics. It was horrible. A week later, a similar thing happens. Then again and again, within 6 months, 10 women were found murdered in a similar way. And they were all found dead near a big road on the grass. And they were all caught the same way. They all had similar injuries. So at a police station, Rick mentioned during a police meeting one time, Detective Brown, what if we're dealing with a serial killer over here? Immediately, Detective Brown scolded him. Who asked for your opinion? Don't talk shit like that. We can't have the press on our back, all of that. So Detective Brown lashed out. His colleagues thought, hey, this is improper that the detective behaves this way. Later, the chief of the police station um, called out the detective for the way he behaved towards Rick and said he's not supposed to act this way. But anyway, Rick let it go. But the thing is, many at the police station agreed with Rick that this was indeed a serial killer. The method is the same in every killing. And then, in another half year, now there were 20 other women. So in a year time, 30 women were murdered the same way. That was a lot. Eventually, mainstream media began to talk about is this a serial killer? Why is police not doing anything? Eventually, after like only 2 or 3 months, the mainstream media stopped talking about all those murders. Rick eventually left the police force because those cases bothered him, and he lost all trust in the NYPD. Now, 20 years later, one of his sons, who's 19, let's call him Eric. Eric. Now, Eric, one time tells his father, Dad, come check this out. And his father asked what goes on. He said, Dad, 20 years ago, that's a year before I was born. Remember that you told us you were at the NYPD and it was a case of over 30 women murdered in a year, and it was obvious it was a serial killer, but nobody wanted to hear anything about it. And Rick says, yeah. Then Eric is also that, look at, I made a map on Google Maps. I made a map of all the locations of the murders. You see this is where they all are. And Rick said, go on. And the son said, listen, Dad, They were all found at the roadside, where it's on a field of grass. Oh, my bad. Caught the same way. So, and it all happened within a 10-mile radius. And then Rick looked at the computer screen and thought, whoa, I never noticed that back in the day. Okay, so that, listen, at at the at the time of them dying is somewhere between 8 p.m. and midnight. What we're looking for is someone who is often on the roads during the night and knows the neighborhood well. There are truck drivers that deliver packages and goods locally. And I found out back in the day there were three main truck drivers that lived in a 10-kilometer radius. And I found out one of them was even interrogated by the police. And he was released. Then Rick said, well, okay, son, it's been released, so there's a dead lead. But hold on. Then Eric said, hold on, that man, I looked to his past. He's from the UK. He was born in Britain. And guess what? Was truck driver there too for 4 years. And guess what? That in those 4 years, 15 women were murdered in exact the same way like the third here in New York City. And Rick thinks, what are you talking about? He showed, and then his son showed him all the receipts. And guess what? That all these murders happened in less than 10 miles of where this man used to live in Britain. And Rick leans back and think, and he says out loud, hold on a minute. So this guy lived in Britain, where he was born and grew up, and within 10 miles where he lives, 15 women were murdered like that in the span of 2 years. Then he moves to the United States for some weird reason and becomes a truck driver over here. And his second year living here, um, in a year time, um, 30 women were killed in double the amount of what happened near his hometown in Britain. And Eric tells his dad, listen, this is your guy. And there's a sketch made by a police artist based on some witness accounts. And look at the composite sketch over here, Dad, and look at in photos of his man, almost identical. And then Rick said, well, I'm not at the police force anymore, but we can hand in all this information and they were able to catch the guy finally. And then his son tells him that, are you sure you want to do this? And Rick looked at his son and said, of course I do. One of the reasons I left the police force 10 years after all that happened, you were still a little boy at the time, it's because those cases never left me. They always bothered me. I was so dismissive of the idea of a serial killer, even though it was right in our face. And now you tell me they even interrogated the guy and released him, even though if they did a little bit more research, you would have figured out that this whole process is questionable. And er- Eric tells his father, Dad, listen, why do you think nobody wanted me to serial killing? And Rick said, well, they said the mayor didn't want to have hysteria in the media. They wanted people trying to go down the streets and all that. And Eric told his father that, listen, that's all nonsense. There's so much crime happening in New York City. And they broadcast it on the news, what happens. They don't think about people losing sleep overnight about that. And Rick realized, you know what, son, you're right. Then Eric continued that. The fact this man was killing in Britain than in the United States in the same way over and over again, that means that this man is like he's a psychopath. He's a he's a reprobate. He's gone. He's dangerous. But here's the thing: where does he come from? From Britain, right? Guess what? Who raised him? All the victims, both in Britain and the United States, look similar, have almost the same look. And I look at the picture of his parents; they all look like his mom. And Rick got quiet. Dad. Eric said, Dad, listen. Something. I looked. I asked one of my friends in Britain to look into this, and they told me that the neighborhood where this man grew up, a lot of children were molested over there, including this man over here. But nobody intervened, not even the police. They all said those were private men. They didn't want to get involved. This guy got addicted to drugs during his teenage years and all that. Got into rehab, in and out. Eventually became a truck driver to earn a living. And then Rick says, hold on a minute. Are you telling me there was a neighborhood where child molestation was an everyday thing almost, and people just let it happen? And when one of those child victims was in his teenage years, he became addicted to drugs. All blamed on him. Nobody addressed how damaged he was. And Eric said that that's exactly the case. And one of these victims became this monster right now. So I'm not excusing this grown man who should have never chosen the dark side. He should have never chosen the dark side. He should have looked for help to become better. Nevertheless, we have to admit that people make this monster. They did. So we can't put all the blame on this serial killer who made him this to become the who shaped him this way. Of course, he himself should never embrace the dark side, but if someone wants to embrace the dark side, let them do it on their own accord. Don't make it easy to give them an excuse to choose the dark side. Don't damage, because even if this guy never chose the dark side, he would have been a very dysfunctional adult. And I know for sure people would blame him for all his defects instead of being compassionate towards him. Dad, you know how the world is. And Rick said, you're right, son. I know how the world is. Now, then Eric said that the fact they don't mention this man is because the moment they mention this man, marriages will fall apart, families may collapse, business may go bankrupt, there may be more domestic violence taken because people feel uncomfortable. Also, politicians have to step down, both in the United States and in Britain. All the scandal will lead to less social trust. With less social trust, will be more domestic violence, more public disturbances. And here's the thing with that: the people that allowed all this to happen to this man, they're still alive. Some of these women who allow this to happen are either grandmothers right now, or they're mothers themselves, or at least they have a partner. Do you think their partners and their children or grandchildren want to hear how horrible of a human being their mom or grandmom or partner is? No. So they are going to be the first ones resisting this news coming out. And the thing is that my informant in Britain told me that some journalists were addressing the cases in Britain, and they were threatened by people to shut up or else. And the police advised them to stop the investigation. And was shocked with all of this. So that Eric said that, are you willing to put yourself in harm's way and to risk your safety by mentioning this man's name, even though he's a perpetrator has to be arrested? And Rick thought for it for a moment, then realized, you know what, it's not worth it. Now, there was a parable. In this parable, obvious it's obvious that the serial killer, let's call him Peter. Peter is the scandal. He is the controversy. But here's the thing: he's not a scandal nor a controversy because of the harm he's been doing as a serial killer. The thing is, He should have been already captured in Britain with his first kill. That didn't happen. When he moved to the United States, there was no good reason why he moved to the United States. Homeland Security and the customs should have been aware about him. And the thing is, he embraced the dark side as a grown man. But if he didn't do it, he would still be extremely dysfunctional as an adult. So we have to blame the public for raising this monster. So the public failed. And people don't want to own up that the public failed. It's going to have financial, economic, and social consequences we wouldn't want to deal with. So mentioning this man alone is going to cause a lot of people to be triggered and to be upset. And when people are triggered and upset and they have no outlet to take it out upon, they begin to take it out on those around them or just mentally collapse. And this man's name alone will cause many to collapse. You. That's why people don't deal with the case. That's why those higher up in the police and those higher up in the government decide it would be safer and more practical to leave all those cases to be court cases than to actually arrest the guy and risk a societal meltdown. Okay, so in this parable that I told you, by the way, this is a fictional story, by the way, but it's inspired by real events. In this parable, it's clear that the serial killer is not a controversy because of his serial killing, but because he became a serial killer by the public's neglect. Yes, he's to blame. He should be arrested. He's fully responsible for involving himself in all the darkness. However, he didn't become that way all by himself. Everyone that contributed to him being damaged and who contributed to him being neglected over time are also to blame for what he became and the impact what he became. If there was intervened early in his life, especially in his childhood or in his growing up when he was a drug addict, a lot of harm could have been prevented. But here's the thing though, who wants to hear their wife or their husband or their mom, their dad, or sometimes their children are on some bullshit, being wasteful and neglectful, allowing evil to unfold like that? No, nobody wants to own up to that. Now, this live stream will not take that long. Understand the following. Just like in his parable, the serial killer became such a controversy that even mentioning his name would trigger people and cause people to have meltdowns. I'm telling you, you, there are times you are the controversy and you are the scandal. Now, you're not a serial killer, at least I hope not. But anyway, you're not a serial killer. Let me assume you're not. You're not an evildoer. You're not out there to do harm. You're just dysfunctional or damaged. Yet you're willing to take responsibility and become better. Let me tell you, you take responsibility, you wanting better, you owning up to your past, and you commit to become a better and safe human being, that alone makes a lot of people look bad. And because people don't want to look bad, now they get upset with you because you're operating in quality. You're a quality human being. So in this case, over time, you become the scandal, you become the controversy. But you may ask Rashid, how do you know you are the scandal or the controversy? By you experience special silence. When people around you are way too silent towards you. When special silence going on for more than a year, I'm telling you, you're in danger, y'all. You need to get out of there. But anyway, just understand, society does not want to have any witnesses that can serve as a mirror for how fallen and untrustworthy they are. If you are that mirror, you likely not even aware of it, I'm telling you all, you're going to face suspicious silence, people blocking you, blacklisting you, suddenly abandoning you, and before you know it, there'll be people finishing the job and actually taking your life. Now, often that doesn't actually happen directly, but people are persecuted for life, decades long. Listen, could it be that you were right all along? Could it be that actually you were the victim or you were at disadvantage, but you moved on with life, you were a better safe human being. So now you're not a victim anymore. You're a victor. Could it be that you thriving, overcoming like that, made so many people look bad that even mention your name is problematic for a lot of people? I'm telling you, you have to start considering that. But if that's the case, listen, you can't change these people for the better. You have no control over that. Only thing you can dictate is your own internal attitude. Forgive people, even those that are not sorry and don't even ask for forgiveness. It doesn't matter, just forgive them because forgiveness is for your sake and not for their sake. But don't reconcile with them unless they comply with justice and become better and safer human beings. I'm just telling you all, there are times you are the controversy, there are times you are the scandal. Again, you experience a space of silence, but then you also notice people are talking about you, but never to you. Or you may have people getting close to you, but they don't interact with you. They just want to be around you. And you think, what the heck was on over here? Often the victims that don't want to accept the excuse of society become the scandal and become um, the controversy. Not always, of course, but it often happens. So again, if you find yourself being treated as a scandal or the controversy, listen, it's not to do with you. That's to do with the failure of the public they don't want to put up with. What you should do is admit situation in a constructive, healthy way, know who's whom, and avoid people who functions to open doors of misfortune. All right. Are there any questions about this topic? Let me know, Elijah, please. Let me know. Are there any questions about this topic? Listen, it's not when people are shouting at you that you have to be concerned. I'm not saying people shouting at you and done with you is not, it's a good thing. No, it's a bad thing. You should even want that and avoid it. But if some people talking bad about you openly, that's the issue. It's when everyone is silent about you. That's when you need to be concerned. Because that means that your very existence makes them uncomfortable. Not because you did anything wrong towards them, but because your very existence functions like a mirror exposing them. Because what they don't want to face themselves, they now turn on you. And all that silence is when they're attempting to find a way to get rid of you. I'm telling you. Listen, Jesus was betrayed by Judas Iscariot. Jesus allowed to happen because he had to fulfill prophecy. Now you're not here to fulfill a specific prophecy like that. Okay? Just because we're told to be forgiving and have compassion on people doesn't mean that we are dormant. Just allow ourselves to be intentional like that. If you notice people are questionable, then examine them. If If it's clear they're questionable and they don't want to own up to anything, then do not involve yourself with them. Keep the contact at the bare minimum, y'all. Amen. But anyway, actually, that was a live stream. I don't have really much to say over here. Are there any questions? Hold on. Just one more thing. Never underestimate how far people are willing to go just to feel comfortable, y'all. Never forget about it. What's it for now? Thanks for being here. Keep agreeing with Christ. Everyone, don't the links below. I will see you in the next live stream. God is